Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards.
If you're listening to this podcast, then you're in great company. We've got thousands of listeners who have a thirst for continual improvement and raising standards in business. Whether your interest is in quality, sustainability, or risk standards, I'd love to welcome you as a member to our online platform for all things ISO, the ISOlogy Hub. The ISOlogy Hub is the leading place to get access to all of your online resources, from in-depth training courses through to our very popular coffee break training, to templates and action plans and many other resources to help raise standards. As a member, you get access to over 100 courses, taking you from learner to practitioner to leader. The ISOlogy Hub has all the resources that you need, which will really help to make your life easier and to help improve compliance in those business critical areas. So if you'd like access to learning and compliance resources ranging from data privacy to environmental management, anti-bribery, business continuity, quality, health and safety, to name just but a few, the list is endless actually, then we'd love for you to come and join us. Just head over to the isologyhub.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ian Battersby, Senior ISO Consultant at Blackmores UK Limited. Welcome to another episode of the ISO Show. Hopefully you've been enjoying these in the past and we'll continue to bring them to you regularly. Today, I'm going to talk about SWOT and PESTLE, something many of you may already know about and already use, but something well worth considering. Firstly, what is SWOT and PESTLE? SWOT and PESTLE is a way of looking at things which affect your organisation. A SWOT is an assessment of your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And a PESTLE is looking at factors which affect you regarding political, economical, social, technological, legal and environmental issues. In some instances, people have begun to add to this another E at the end, a PESTLE E, and that's ethical issues, things around human rights, labour, social responsibility and the like. Well, talk in a little bit more detail on that. These tools have been very popular in helping organisations for a long time who are embarking on major projects, major change. They're often fundamental in helping people to understand the benefits, but also pitfalls of a project. You may think you know everything for your journey along a change in a project, but it is always useful to step back and reappraise things, to look at things afresh with new eyes and gain as wide a perspective as possible. And SWOT and PESTLE helps to do this, and in some methods of project management are the sort of essential first steps in doing that. Creating management systems, developing them is no different. That is another project, another change management project. So a SWOT and PESTLE can be really useful at the beginning. And in fact, not only can it be useful, but SWOT and PESTLE analyses can actually help people to meet the requirements of management system standards. Hopefully listeners are by now quite aware of management system standards and how they're structured. There's what's called the high-level structure of management system standards. They follow a path through context, leadership, planning, that sort of thing. The Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle, PDCA, as we've talked about at length in the past in our conversations here. Clause 4 in management system standards is generally about the context of the organisation. We've talked in our shows before about context of the organisation. But what we want to do today is talk about how SWOT and PESTLE can lend themselves to establishing, determining the context of an organisation. The context is the world in which an organisation works. It is all of the internal and external factors which affect what you do, which affect whether you achieve your intended outcomes. So they are the things which either support you in doing that or could be an obstacle to you doing that. If we look at the detail, let's go to 9001. We always begin with 9001, but Clause 4 in 9001 is really no different to the Clause 4 in other management system standards. Nowhere does Clause 4 say you shall do a SWOT and PESTLE analysis. Nowhere does it say that these are requirements. So why do we, as an organisation in Blackmores, suggest this as a route for achieving the determination of context of the organisation? I'll read what Clause 4 says. The organisation shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and its strategic direction and that affect its ability to achieve the intended results of its management system. There you go. Strategic directions mentioned. We talk about this quite often. The ability to achieve intended results and its management system in delivering those results. What it also says is the organisation shall monitor and review information about these external issues. So you have to monitor and review whatever you found to be affecting your intended outcomes. So great, remember, monitor and review. That's hugely important to us here. There are also 3 notes in this clause. Note 1, issues can include positive and negative factors or conditions. Okay. Note 2, understanding the external context, remember external, can be facilitated by considering issues arising from legal, technological, competitive, market, cultural, etc. So there's a few things that you ought to consider according to that note. And note 3, understanding the internal context can be facilitated by considering issues related to values, culture, knowledge, and performance of the organisation. So these are quite important. The standard doesn't say you will do things by a specific method, such as SWOT and PESTLE. It says you will do this, and here's some ideas as to why you should consider these things for inclusion. Okay? So let's consider what a SWOT and PESTLE are in a bit more detail and come back to how they might meet the standards a little bit later. A SWOT, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So 2 internal things there, strengths and weaknesses. They are factors which are internal to the organisation. Opportunities and threats are generally external factors. So things where you may enhance your standing and things which might be obstacles to what you want to do. Now, depending on the specific management system you're looking at, you may view this activity through a particular lens. It could be health and safety, it could be information security, it could be environment, it could be many things. But remember this, the clause of the standard says you must align to the strategic direction of the organisation. So if you're just talking about one specific issue, environment, health, safety, information security, you shouldn't view that in isolation. You should view its contribution to how the organisation actually runs. Information security is a popular management system standard to align to. But if you're delivering all your processes through online systems, that is actually something that has a great impact on quality management as well. So it's not just an information security issue, it's a quality of service issue. So never look at things in complete isolation. Now, how do you do this? So how do you actually conduct SWOT and PESTLE analyses? What's in them? Firstly, the people you involve are important. So not just the questions you ask during these assessments. Senior management are quite important here. And the involvement of senior management in SWOT and PESTLE helps you to demonstrate that you have considered the strategic direction of the organisation. Back to clause 1.4. That's what it's asking you to do. And senior management should understand what that direction is. And that sets the tone for a management system. Management systems should be set in that context, the world in which you operate and the direction of the organisation set by your top management. But you'll need also to include operational management, in some sense, functional managers. And look at the issues I've mentioned that might be considered as necessary by the standard itself. Resources, people, information, process, technology, equipment, laws, markets, environment, finance, economy. These are things which are required for you to look at. So what are the detail of these things that you might look at? Okay, so if you look at a SWOT analysis, so the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. As I said, strengths and weaknesses are internal factors internal to your own organisation. And you're looking at the advantages you have, the capabilities, the resources, the assets, the people, the marketing edge that you might have. So questions you should ask yourself as part of a SWOT. What do we do well? Okay, great. That's the first question I would ask myself in terms of strengths. What do we control through good processes? What are we known for? What's our USP? What would other people say are our strengths? What does our marketplace, our competitors say about us? And what are we good at? What do we feel we're good at compared to our competitors? So what's our competitive advantage? What assets do we have? What resources and knowledge do we have that's readily available? We can demonstrate what we have. What's the strength in our products and in the processes for delivering those products and the people that run those processes and deliver those products? Their skills, their knowledge, their strengths, their weaknesses, and their expertise. What areas in our organisation are already at a high standard and don't necessarily need improvement? What data do we hold to reference to actually verify that we're good at what we do? Do we have objectives and targets that we measure against? KPIs, metrics, success factors, service level agreements that demonstrate we're good? So these are all ways of saying that we are good at what we do. These are our strengths. But then weaknesses, another internal factor. Doing a SWOT and PESTLE requires you to be quite brutally honest. You don't look at weaknesses without being honest about them. And this is where you lack competitive strength. This is where you may have weak financials and vulnerabilities in your organisation, in your continuity arrangements, your supply, the robustness of your entire value chain. What needs to improve there? Okay, and specific questions you may ask are, where is money being used poorly or being lost? Where are we overspending? What do our competitors do better than us? What's their market edge on us? What resources do we lack? Knowledge, expertise, people. What process do we lack? What are the weaknesses in our products? Okay, where can our products be improved? What are the constraints on our ability to meet changing needs? Changes in market, in client, in the way we work. And what is the customer, talking of the market, telling us about where we're letting them down? Okay, what's the customer feedback looking like? And what our suppliers are like? Are they a reliable supplier? Do they meet our own values, our own management system requirements? Do they meet the requirements of our clients? And what is anything we may need to act on immediately to improve our business? Now, external factors are broken into opportunities and threats. So, market developments, business and product development. So, specific questions are, what new opportunities are available in our market? Positive things. How's our market changing? for the good? What are the trends in the market, and what market data do we hold or can we find which help us to understand that? Are there changes in compliance requirements in our specific industry or our locality that might provide us with opportunity to gain an edge? What opportunities have we identified in the past that we've not necessarily taken advantage of, so are still available to us? There are still opportunities. What is the competition not taking advantage of that we can exploit? And what customer feedback is telling us, not negative feedback, but positive, this is what you can do more for us as a customer. So what are they saying? What are they saying to us that will increase their satisfaction? Anything that they're specifically asking us to provide over and above, that's an opportunity. Threats. These are obstacles to you achieving. Okay. Of late, environmental effects have come to the fore, and management system standards are specifically identifying climate change. That needs to be referenced. That might actually be an opportunity as well as a threat. Market demand, threats, obstacles to achievement, as I've mentioned. So, in the threats, who are our competitors who are a threat to us? Has there been a change in competitors? What's that looking like? Are other competitors taking advantage of markets that we're not? Where are they? Why are they getting ahead of us? Are the habits of customers changing, and how? And are there other interested parties other than customers who present obstacles to us? Are there any foreseeable resource issues? That could be in terms of loss of experienced staff, turnover, lack of relevant talent in the pool of people available to us. There could be market factors in the job market that affect everybody as well as us. And are we adapting to changes in our particular world, in our context? And are we adaptable as well as adapting? So they're the sorts of things that you may wish to consider in a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. There are other things. There are myriad things that may be added into a SWOT analysis. These just pointers as to the way to go. Now, the PESTLE. Political, economic, sociological, technological, legal, environmental, and, if you wish to add these in, ethical. Ethical considerations may be slotted in elsewhere in PESTLE, but people are now beginning to pull them out because the initiatives driving ethical considerations. So when you're looking at political factors affecting your intended outcomes, okay, what is happening politically in our environment? That could be international or local environment. What is the impact of policy on tax and the like? What are employment trends, trade restrictions, reforms in the way economies are run, tariffs, and what is the level of stability like? Again, nationally and internationally, depending on how that affects your market. What's the impact on unemployment rates on your organisation? But also the flip side of that on workforce shortages. Both may affect you. And is there any form of government intervention in your specific market? Okay, does that provide for a threat? Or are there opportunities from government intervention, like schemes and grants, which afford you ways to get into specific markets?
Are you new to ISO standards and want to know what it's all about? Or maybe your company has multiple ISO standards, but there's a lack of engagement and compliance. Whether it's quality, sustainability, or risk standards, the Isology Hub is your one-stop shop for all your online learning resources associated with raising your company's standards. From as little as £99 a month, you can have unlimited access to hundreds of online training courses and achieve certification for completion of courses along the way, which will take you from learner to practitioner to leader in no time. So what courses are in the Hub? Well, there are courses on everything a head of quality, sustainability, information security and health and safety would need to manage compliance and raise standards. With over 100 courses available to you, Here are examples of just a few. ISO 9001 internal auditor, how to transition to the new ISO 27001 standard, the role of ESG in quality management, and how to integrate management systems. But it's not just courses in the Isology Hub. You can access templates, downloads, and action checklists to take your business to the next level. So why not try the Isology Hub today? Just click on the link at www.isologyhub.com and you'll get access to all our resources within minutes. If you're interested in embedding best practice across your organisation or would like to develop an awareness and training programme for employees, we offer a free learning and development session to tailor a bespoke training programme based on your organisation's needs. So we'd love for you to join as an Isology Hub member. Just head over to isologyhub.com to get access to your unlimited training and compliance resources.
Economic factors affecting you. What is happening within the economy? Is there growth or decline in your specific economy? What is the impact of interest rates, exchange rates, inflation? What is economic policy doing to you and your industry and your clients? And what are the impacts on wage rates, minimum wage changes, affordable living, cost of living? And are you affected by issues such as investment and credit availability? Serious considerations for certain organisations. Sociological factors affecting you. What is happening in the social environment for your market and the whole world in which you operate? It's not just your customer side, it's also your employees. What's the impact of changes in cultural norms and the expectations of people? The impact on people's working lives and what their expectations around working lives are. Working hours, career aspirations in your particular market. What is the emphasis on ethics, safety, environmental protection and data privacy, both on your client side and your workforce and your supply side? And what are the social changes that specifically drive your customers' expectations in the way you operate with them, whether you deliver things as a service online and what their speed of access to your services is like, whether you deliver products and what that social expectation around transport or manufacture or supply chain could be. Next factor which may affect you is technological. What is happening technology-wise which impacts on what you do? What's the impact of emerging technology? What about the equipment you use? Automation, the age of your equipment, the life cycle of it, the investment needs of equipment which may be beginning to age, and how you decide on the costs and benefits of investing in things. What is the impact on current communication and future communications technology? Website use, blogs, social media and its impact on how you interact in your marketplace. And have you got intellectual property you need to protect? Copyrights, patents, that need consideration. And then we can move on to legal considerations. What legal factors affect you? How does the law affect how you do business? Company law, health and safety law, HR law, trade law. What changes in legislation have occurred recently that you need to have considered already? And what's coming up? How do you horizon scan for changes in legislation that affect you and your market? And what's specific to your industry or your products and services that you need to really consider? What's the impact on employment, on imports, exports, labour patterns? And when you look at legal obligations and legal factors affecting your intended outcomes, you also really ought to, at this point, consider other compliance obligations. So, certification to standards, industry standards, client needs and requirements. What are they asking you to do over and above your legal requirements? So you need to take into account those sorts of things. Then we move on to environmental factors affecting you. What is happening with respect to the environment? And a definition of environment is surroundings in which an organisation operates, including air, water, land, natural resources, flora, fauna, humans and their interrelationships. So all of those things together, how do you impact on that in the way you operate? Okay? What about changes in the energy market and the utilities markets? How do they affect you? And what are you doing to address reporting requirements? We've got things like SECR and ESOS, which are considerations for people. The UK as a whole has carbon reduction targets. How do we fit with the national plan to reduce our carbon footprint? And as I mentioned earlier, there are now ethical considerations being incorporated into the PESTLE analysis. These considerations involve money transactions and how we stay on the right side of law with respect to the use of money. They also affect people, human rights, labour, children in the workforce, slavery, health, safety and well-being of our populations, sustainability, social responsibility, philanthropic and charitable contributions your organisation may make. And then, as I've mentioned already, you've got various national and international agreements, initiatives, pacts, that sort of thing, and reporting requirements under some of those. So that's the sort of detail, the content, the sorts of things you might ask of yourselves in a SWOT and PESTLE. Now, as I've mentioned, these cover many issues, resources, people, information, process, that sort of thing. And getting a broad perspective in asking these questions is important. So yes, senior management, but then the functional operational managers who may be able to answer the detailed questions here and give a true insight into how an organisation is affected by these. When you're going through this as well, nothing is insignificant. Include everything, okay? Might appear trivial on the face of it, but it's well worth adding everything in. The next phase, the SWOT and PESTLE, is considered significance. So document every factor that you can and document how each of those factors affects your ability to achieve what you intend. Remember, that's what this is aimed at. Things affecting your ability to achieve what you intend. Clause 4.1 specifically states that's what you're aiming to do. So, I've mentioned clause 4.1. I'll draw you back to the standard again then, all of the management system standards. So, the first thing it asks you to do is align your SWOT and PESTLE or your factors affecting what you wish to do to your strategic direction. So, involvement of top management. We've covered that then. It talks about achieving intended results. What I've just described is things which affect that. And then we have those 3 notes I mentioned earlier. Note 1, issues can include positive and negative factors or conditions for consideration. Great, we've looked at strengths and weaknesses. They're positive and negative. We've looked at opportunities and threats. They are both positive and negative. So that's great. We've squared off that side of the standard. Note 2 says we need to understand the external context. Great, because opportunities and threats are external, and the PESTLE looks at external factors. And things worth considering are arising from legal, technological, competitive, market, cultural, social, etc. We've addressed that particular one as well. So 2 notes already we've addressed. And if a certification auditor comes along and drawing their attention to how you've met those is really quite useful. It starts an audit well, I think. And then the final note, understanding the internal context can be facilitated by considering issues related to values, culture, knowledge and performance. Now, when you're looking at your strengths and weaknesses, all of those matters are up for consideration. You look at whether you are a strong organisation, whether your people do things the right way, your ethics, those sorts of things. You look at the values and whether you are intending to do the right thing. You also look at knowledge, the resources you hold, the people, the expertise, the processes, and you look at performance. Remember I said you look at what you're good at, and performance is part of that. measuring through KPIs and success factors and that sort of thing. So I think that by taking that form of structured approach, clause 4.1 is really quite well covered when you wish to talk to a certification auditor. And it's very well covered in establishing the grounds for a new system if you're starting from scratch. But the standard also says you shall monitor and review information about these external and internal issues. This is not a one-off exercise and is not just done once per year at a management review. And a management review should not necessarily just be a once per year another topic. This is an ever-changing world. As I said, this is the world in which you operate as an organisation. This is your world. Okay, and I'll give you some examples of situations where a SWOT and PESTLE may well have been addressed quite regularly and has not been. I had a client some time ago and we were auditing the competence clause of one of the standards. They were demonstrating a system, a manual system where they struggled to find the documentation, the records they required. It existed, but it was quite a difficult process. And they explained to me that 6 months prior, they'd introduced a new HR and learning and development and professional review system and all that sort of thing. It was all nice online stuff. They'd set it up, spent money. It had been in place for a month. And after a month, they decided it really did not meet their purposes. Now, there's an issue here because their SWOT and PESTLE had been done 9 months previously. The SWOT and PESTLE hadn't identified that they were moving to a new HR system. So the competence requirements that they could demonstrate, which would be held in a new system, would be subject to change, to flux during that period. They hadn't identified that they'd introduced the system and that the system had failed and they'd gone back to a manual system. So several events had occurred around that specific system that had led them to being back in a manual system where demonstrating competence was actually quite difficult. None of these factors had been included in their SWOT or PESTLE and should have been at some point. I have other examples of where people had retooled in a manufacturing organisation. New machinery was introduced, new workflows in an organisation, workflows in terms of a pattern of moving things around the shop floor. These are vitally important to the way you deliver and should be part of both SWOT and PESTLE. I have recently been talking to a client who has achieved certification. Their SWOT and PESTLE currently says they plan to achieve certification by such and such a date this year, and they have now achieved certification. And their objectives have in them that they plan to achieve certification. Things have changed, things have moved on, and where they move on, they have to be addressed in the SWOT and PESTLE. Only a few days ago, we did a question and answer on the CrowdStrike episode lately, where Microsoft systems had been attacked. There are obvious implications from those sorts of incidents that impact across the world where people already should have addressed changes to their SWOT and PESTLE on the back of it. But you may also have local incidents in your workplace. You may have accidents affecting people. You may have non-conformities from audit. You might have environmental impact. You may have the authorities looking at what you've done on the back of these sorts of things. These are all matters which change your environment in which you work and should be addressed within a SWOT and PESTLE. And there are changes in standards. So, for instance, I've just mentioned that all of the management system standards have now changed to include clauses in Clause 4 on climate change. Have you addressed that change and the implications of that change? Are you constantly looking at the laws which affect your workplace, your operations, your products, and your marketplace? These all affect the context. So as you see then, it's not a one-off, it's not an annual, it is something you review regularly based on the changing environment in which you work. So there you have it. The SWOT and PESTLE analysis is something that's not required as such by standards, but as I think I've tried to demonstrate there, it's very helpful as a way of achieving what the standards are requesting. If you're doing it by another means, be really interested to hear from you as to how you meet the standards and what your certification bodies think. That would be an interesting conversation because we are here to learn. So hopefully if people have other ideas, we can take from them. But we've been through everything: the requirements, the standards, the top management involvement, the external and internal issues that are affected, and the need to monitor and review. So hopefully I've given you a brief overview there that might be quite helpful to you. So hope that's been of interest to people. We'll be back again soon with another topic in the ISO show. So I'll leave you with that. But before I go, can I just remind everybody listening that you can subscribe to our ISO show, our podcasts, on any of your preferred media players. If you've not already left reviews for us, please go give us a review. Give us 5 stars, please. It would be really helpful. Your reviews also will help us to reach a wider audience and also give us ideas as to what we can do in the future. So if you've got any questions or any suggestions for us, please get in touch. Send us an email, comment online, on your media player. We'd love to hear from you. So that's it from me today. Thank everybody for listening, and we'll catch up with you on the next ISO show. Cheerio.
Looking to use ISO standards to drive better business practice? Contact us at blackmoresuk.com to access further information and book your free 15-minute call.